25 creepiest things kids have said to their parents. When my husband was deployed, my 2-year-old slept in my bed with me. Well, one night, he pointed next to me and whispered that there was a monster there. I said, "It's okay, whenever you feel scared, just say a little prayer." So I started to say one, and then he put his hand on my mouth to stop me, and whispered, "Hush, he doesn't like that." My 2-year-old daughter was playing with her toy kitchen, and I saw that she'd put a plastic baby figure in one of the pans and was sautéing it. When I told her we don't cook babies, she said, "It's just to take the skin off." When my 2-year-old daughter and I moved into our first home, she once came over and gave me a hug, with her arms really tight around my neck. I pulled away and said, "Ow, why would you do that?" She pointed across the room at nothing and said, "That man's doing it to that man." One day, the girl I babysat was playing with her dolls, and she ripped the head off of one and put it in a box. I looked inside the box, and there were a whole bunch of stray heads in there. I asked her what she was doing this for, and she replied, "Practicing." We were at the dinner table when my nephew just stopped, suddenly got very serious, and made direct eye contact with me, saying, "I'm going to find you. I'm going to find you. I'm going to find you." My husband is a farmer, and late one night I took my 4-year-old and 2-year-old to the field to pick him up from work. Well, while we were waiting for him to finish up, my 2-year-old asked, "Mommy, who that man outside?" I responded, "I don't see a man, is your Ken doll on the floor?" Then, my 4-year-old piped up and said, "He's right outside your door, staring at you. He's scary. He has blood on his face." I overheard a little girl, referring to the new daycare employee, say, "Her eyes are pretty. I wanna wear them on my charm bracelet." I was alone with my 4-year-old daughter when she began staring out a dark window and said, "She's here." I checked the night vision video monitor to make sure my 2-year-old daughter was finally asleep, since I hadn't heard any noise in a while, and I saw her standing up in her crib. She then slowly bent all the way over in a way that looked humanly impossible, cocked her head and said, "Hi." I was asleep on the couch when I suddenly had the feeling someone was watching me. I opened my eyes and there were my 3- and 4-year-olds, standing next to my face. Then they smiled and said, "We were watching you." 2 days after my daughter turned 2, we told her our fish died, knowing she wouldn't fully understand. She nodded solemnly and said, "Everybody goes on the big train, bye-bye." One day, my son stared at the corner and asked, "Why is that man watching us? And why is his head like this?" Then he yanked his head at a sharp angle, similar to how a hanging victim would look. Needless to say, it freaked me the FCK out. My 3-year-old son and I were alone in my grandma's house after her funeral when he asked, "Who's that?" I said, "Who?" And he pointed past me and answered, "That face in the wall." I work at a daycare, and during nap time, after we turned all the lights out, one little boy suddenly said, "It's coming. It's coming." When my daughter was 2, she asked, "Do you remember when the car hit me and went boom? And then I went up where there were lots of toys, and then I came back down to you?" I was on the porch with my 6-year-old cousin when he whispered, "It's your time." When my son was 5 years old, he told me he couldn't wait for me to die so he could have his own zombie. I've slept with one eye open ever since. One night, when I was coming upstairs at around 11:30, I overheard my 5-year-old daughter say, "What are all of you doing in here?" When my daughter was 3, I was at home on maternity leave with my son. My daughter started talking about Abigail, whom she said lived in our house. It freaked me out, but I was also intrigued. My kid's friend hit a floating bubble, and it split into 2. She said it gave birth and that it was romantic. Then she suddenly popped them both and said, "Murder is more romantic." My best friend was cleaning out her dresser drawers when her 3-year-old picked up a picture and said, "Mommy, this was me when I was grandma." It was a picture of my friend's grandmother. She asked, "What?" And her daughter replied, "You don't remember? I was Grandma Marie." When my nephew was 5 years old, he said he wanted to cut off my head, scoop my brains out, and use my skull to drink out of. He was laughing the entire time. My friend's sister never spoke a word until she was about 5 years old, when one night at dinner she suddenly said, "You are not my real family. My real family died in a fire." My parents told me that when I was little, every night before they left my room I would say, "Good night, don't die." One day my 2-year-old started talking about someone named Grandma. My mom goes by Mem and my mother-in-law goes by Nonna, so I started asking her questions about who Grandma was. My daughter said that she looks like you and Mem, so I thought she might have been seeing my grandmother who passed away.